afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Season 3 of What the Why with Barbara Ann on RVN Television. If you haven't seen us before, our show features conversations with diverse leaders from all walks of life about why they do what they do and how they figured things out. Maybe you're sick and tired, feeling sick and tired, or you feel stuck and want to get unstuck in your business, job, or life. All of our guests have something in common with you. They felt similarly at some point, and they decided to do something about it. And today is no exception. Please join me in welcoming Jim Marshall, polymath scholar and author of Septemics, Hierarchies of Human Phenomena Analysis, Prediction, and Management of Human Affairs. Jim is a polymathematics scholar and autodidactic who has devoted over 50,000 hours to studying and practicing multiple dimensions of human development. He received a classical education as an honor student at Jesuit Military Prep School, was accepted into engineering school while he was still a junior in that school, and attended college on an academic scholarship where he graduated with a Bachelor of Science cum laude. While still an undergraduate, Jim began the study of alternative arts and sciences, which today would be described as transformational and holistic. Eventually, after 28 years of formal education, he became a professional practitioner and had a long career in human development engineer. He's integrated the best aspects of the most advanced techniques available anywhere and expanded their limits through his own research and discovery. He's treated and trained hundreds of clients over a 40-year career, and he is the inventor of Septemics, which you're going to hear more about today, and several consciousness expanding systems. His expertise includes psychology, philosophy, theology, parapsychology, science, engineering, math, and more. And I'm super excited to have him joining us via Zoom today from Arizona. So without further ado, please give a round of applause to our guest, Jim Marshall. So, yay. So welcome.
Thank you.
So you're definitely, when we first talked, you are one of the most fascinating and intelligent people I've ever met. And as you know, as part of our show, we delve not just into what you know, but how you found your path there, which of course starts out with our childhood. So, Jim Marshall, what did you want to be when you were growing up?
I'm sorry, say that again. I didn't hear you.
Sorry, what did you want to be when you were growing up?
Well, there's a couple of answers to that. When I was a boy, I thought I was going to be a physicist. But by the time I was in my teens, I learned about engineering and realized that I was really an engineer. You know, the personality of an engineer is very different from that of a scientist. It's a different type of person. Engineers are very practical people. But I think a more revealing understanding is to tell you that there has never been a moment that I can recall when I was not intensely interested in learning everything taught in every university. I was just born with an insatiable curiosity, and I still have it. And I went to school for 28 years, and if I could, I probably would have just continued, which is, how I got to be a polymath. So really, a polymath is the best description of what I am, and it's really, although I didn't even know the word when I was a kid, it's sort of what I was trying to become.
So you decided to become a polymath. What exactly is polymath?
A polymath is a person who's learned in multiple disparate subjects. Historical examples would include Erasmus and Thomas Jefferson. There aren't too many of us.
All right. And so can you describe in a little more detail, because a lot of people are not going to know what a polymath is.
Okay. Well, you mentioned the subjects in which I have expertise. It's actually a much longer list than you read. It's psychology, philosophy, theology, parapsychology, science, engineering, mathematics, law, literature, history, metaphysics, military science, political science, physical culture, education, human potential organization, and music. And I hold a Bachelor of Science cum laude from City University of New York.
Yeah. How did you figure out that this was your path? Because with all of those different expertises, you could have gone in a lot of different directions.
Yes. But you see, the whole point of polymath is that it's all one direction. In my mind, all of these subjects are one big thing. And that's just sort of how I was. I was one of those irritating little kids who always wanted to know how everything worked. How does the refrigerator work? How does the TV work? How does the car work? How does the record player work? How does the radiator work? You know? And that's like the mind of an engineer. But it also bridged over into other things like, well, yeah, I know about Isaac Newton's 3 laws of motion, but who is this guy and what is he about? See, so I was always bridging over into an adjacent subject, and I'm still doing that continuously. I started school when I was 3, and I've been involved in education to this very day, continuously, one way or another. And my career as human development engineer led me to discovering Septemics.
Okay. And I definitely want to ask about Septemics, although you raised a really interesting question. You delved into the who of Sir Isaac Newton. So who is Jim?
Well, Jim is a polymathic intellectual who, at this point, is busy promoting this book, Septemics, which is a textbook on an entirely new subject.
Yeah.
But let me put it to you this way. I am the discoverer of hitherto unknown natural phenomena, which greatly aided the understanding of people, from which I invented a revolutionary practical philosophic system called Septemics, and published it in the book you referenced, Septemics Hierarchies of Human Phenomena.
Yeah. And in all honesty, it's almost like when I read excerpts of it, it was almost like having, the scrolls that could help you decode human behavior.
Right.
So
Yes.
talk about what led you to discovering what's now called Septemics.
Okay. Well, the story really began at age 16 when I was accepted into engineering school. Of course, I thought at the time that I was going to be engineering physical things such as electrons, airfoils, motors, and so forth. But by the time I had my bachelor's degree, it was clear that I wanted to engineer the human psyche, because that is the area of greatest mystery, of greatest unknown. And more importantly, it is the area in which we as a race are failing miserably. 95% of the problems in industrialized society are because we don't understand people. Don't understand the wife, don't understand the husband, don't understand the son, don't understand the mother, don't understand the boss, etc., etc., etc. That's why we routinely elect idiots to run our governments, because we don't understand them.
And how does Septemics help you understand others? I mean, now that's a huge question, but...
Yes. Well, let me answer your first question.
Yeah.
So, to make a long story short, I had a long career as a human development engineer, using engineering principles, working one-on-one with hundreds of clients of every description for cumulatively many thousands of hours. And as I did this, I started to realize that I could predict the outcome of the session. Now, I never told this to anyone, but I made notes. And as the decades rolled by, I came to be aware that the client would be at a specific level on a specific scale that I had previously observed in people.
Wow.
And this only made me better at what I did. After I observed these phenomena within the session, I would then see them outside the session and see it was all over. It was everywhere. Everybody was manifesting these things everywhere you looked. Now, by about 1995, I had about 32 scales of varying lengths, between 3 and 7 levels. And I had one scale in particular that I had been using on a daily basis for decades that I knew was correct. It had 6 levels. And I realized one day that a client that I was pondering was at a level on that scale that I had not previously observed. Now, it was obvious to me when I observed that level where to insert it into the 7-level scale. And when I did, it manifested mathematically. All of these data jumped out at me. Now, the whole point of mathematics is that you start with an equation or a formula and you coax data out of it. That's how Einstein found E equals mc squared. That's what scientists and mathematicians do. So, when I saw this data jump out at me, I could see that this scale had mathematics embedded in it. Having taken 26 semesters of math, this was not subtle to me. This was clear. I loved math, okay? And then I said, wait a minute. Whatever this thing is, this has to be natural law because it has mathematics embedded in it. Like, for example, the Fibonacci sequence. So then I said, wait a minute. I wonder how many of these other scales are actually 7-level scales that had not been developed all the way because I wasn't developing anything. I was just helping my clients and making notes.
Yeah.
So, knowing what I was looking for, I observed these other scales, and in a short period of time, each of them went to 7 levels, and when it did, it manifested mathematically. So in a short period of time, I had 32 7-level scales that all had mathematics embedded in them. I said, it looks to me like I've discovered a new subject here. So then I said, wait a minute. I could go from helping people in the hundreds, which is what I had been doing as human development engineer, to helping people by the millions if I put this in a book and get it out. So I have to write a book. So the first draft was completed in December of 95, and I sent copies of it to colleagues of mine, all of whom had graduate degrees in a variety of subjects. And they all responded very positively. They had different responses, but very complimentary responses. And that told me this is exactly what I think it is. This could really help people. So I spent the next 25 years writing this book. Because you have to realize I had to first discover the phenomena, which was hitherto unknown. And that was mostly done, I already explained, by 95. But I did find 3 more skills as I was writing the book. Then I had to take this data and use it to craft a workable philosophic system. Because you have to understand, as an engineer, I'm only interested in results and facts.
Yeah.
To engineering, opinions and beliefs are utterly irrelevant. So I had to create something that would work every time for every person. That took 20 years. But the most time-consuming part of this was expressing this in a way that would make sense to the average reader. Because my goal from the beginning was to help people, to give this data to the world so that people could use it to straighten out their lives. And I know I succeeded at that because I've been seeing the results of this for 28 years now. People get this. It's not obscure. When people look at this, they say, wow, this is cool. They get it.
Yeah.
And so it's very easy for them to find its relevance and use it to correct whatever's going on in their lives. So that's how I did this.
All right. And so it sounds like the next step for you is scaling it and bringing it to a much broader and larger audience.
Well, that's why I'm doing this interview, to get it to people who are going to be interested in it. I'm sure you know, today most people don't read books. Of the people who do read books, most of them read fiction books. Of the people who read nonfiction books, most of them are in a niche. I mean, like 90%. So this book is not in any of those niches. I tried for years to find what niche this book fit in. Cannot be done. It's a separate subject.
All right.
But let me tell you what systemics is and how it's beneficial in a concise way.
Actually,
Systemics
if
is a
you could, actually,
philosophical
Jim,
science.
Jim, I don't know if you can hear me. Jim, if you could hold that thought, it's actually time for us to take a mid-commercial break. So
Okay.
all the more reason for our audience to please come back after these words from our sponsors and hear more about what systemics is with today's very special guest, Jim Marshall. Welcome back to What the Why on RVN Television with Barbara Ann and today's very special guest, Jim Marshall, author of Septemics, who right before the break, and the title of the book is much longer, I read it in the opening, but right before the break, we were just getting ready to get into what Septemics is. And so now that we're back, Jim, please tell us more about what Septemics actually is.
Okay. Septemics is a philosophical science based on the fact that many phenomena related to human beings occur in a sequence of 7 levels. Literally, the word septemics means of or pertaining to 7. Septemics comprises a collection of scales or sequences, each of which breaks down various human phenomena into a hierarchy of 7 steps. There are 35 such scales, each of which is unique. And together, they span the spectrum of human experience, by which I mean any problem, dilemma, situation, difficulty that any person has can successfully be analyzed by one or more of these scales, usually more than one.
Now, in terms of these scales, it can analyze it. Now, how do you take that information to solve the problem?
Well, every person is at some level on every scale.
Okay.
The data is just sitting there waiting for you to access it. So you find your level on the scale, or you could find another person's level on the scale. Every time you correctly find the level of any person on any scale, you have a realization. You say, oh, now I understand why Joe and Fred can't get along, or something like that. That is one of the ways that you know you found the right level. Now, let me tell you how this is beneficial in a general way, because people are going to want to know that.
Yes.
I wrote this book to help people. I've had a lifetime of helping people. Each of these 35 scales provides the user with an infallible way of determining the salutariness or beneficialness of any group, individual, or activity. If the group, individual, or activity moves persons up these scales, it's beneficial or positive. If it moves them down, it's detrimental or negative. So you see, I'm giving you a yardstick by which to measure human phenomena. It's very precise. More importantly, just finding out what level you or another person is at on any scale is by itself enlightening and beneficial. As I said, you always have an epiphany when you find the right level. You say, oh, now I understand what's going on between my mother and my father. It's because she's at this level and she's not, or something like that. That happens 100% of the time. Okay. And finally, once you have the correct level of any person on any scale, you can improve that person by moving them up one level at a time. Okay. I have solved the gradient problem that has bedeviled mankind for at least 6,000 years. You see, most people have a problem, a dilemma, a situation. They don't know how to resolve it because they don't know the gradient. Mm-hmm. Every good coach, therapist, facilitator in the world understands that human development must be done on a gradient. That's what I did for 40 years with my clients. I would pick the person up at the level he was at and move him up one level. Mm-hmm. And he would have a realization, and then the situation would be somewhat ameliorated as a result of that. Sometimes it would be completely resolved. Mm-hmm. So all of these advantages that I just cited represent major steps forward for society. Each of these scales is an axis against which to evaluate human behavior. And combined, they empower one to understand, predict, and manage human affairs to a degree hitherto unattainable by most. Mm-hmm. Now, let me give you an example as to how to use this, which is most people are going to relate to. Let's say you have a girlfriend who's having a romance problem, right? Common problem. So you have this girlfriend, Gertrude, who's been complaining to you for 6 months about her boyfriend. And you say, Gertrude, come here, let me show you something. You're just doing this because you like her and you want to help her, right? That's just girl talk. You say, look at this. And you open up the book to the scale of relationships and you show it to her. And she'll look at it and she'll say, you mean there's a scale of relationships? And you say, yes. This relationship that you've been complaining to me about for 6 months, Where is it on this scale? See, she's going to want to know that because you are opening a door for her. Wow. Now, what's going to happen is in a matter of seconds, she will find a bracket. She will say something like, well, I can see right off the bat that 1, 2, and 3 don't apply to us. We're not up to that. That's why we're having trouble. See, she got it down to 4. Then you say to her, okay, look, go ahead and read the text, and then you can get it exactly. So she reads the text, and you can help her as a sort of a tutor to understand it. And then she comes back and says, well, now that I read it, I can see we're at level 5. But when we're having all kinds of trouble, that's not a very high level. You see? Mm-hmm. Now, a couple of things could happen. Number one, she's not going to be bummed out because she's at level 5. She's going to be relieved. Oh, now I see what's going on here. You see?
She's getting some answers.
Yeah. Right. Now, what she does about that is up to her. Now, she might say, well, I can see now that our relationship is at 5, so we're going to have to get busy with this book and improve it up to level 4. Or she might say, to hell with this. I'm done with this guy. I'm not wasting any more time with this. That's up to her, okay? So what she does about it is her business. Mm-hmm. But the point is you got her to realize this. Then you can say, okay, look at the scale of sexuality. She'll say, you mean there's a scale of sexuality? Yes. You don't have to tell me if you don't want, but where are you on the scale? She is going to want to know that. Trust me. She'll look at it and she'll find a bracket. She'll say, well, I can see right away that 6 or 7 have nothing to do with me. And really 1 or 2 are way over my head. It's got to be 2, 3, or 4. Okay, good. Let's have you read the text. And then you can get it exactly. So you help her with that process. She comes back and she says, well, now I can see I'm at level 4. And she'll have a realization. She'll say, now I understand why I can't get along with Fred. He's at level 5, I'm at level 4, and they conflict. If you just look at the scale, you can see that these levels conflict on that particular scale. And this is why very often you have a couple handsome people, smart, articulate people, they like one another, they cannot successfully have a romantic relationship because there are conflicting levels on this scale.
Interesting.
One of the levels is can have sex, and another level is can't have sex. Well, duh. If that's the case, they're done. See? So I already know you have to be compatible on this level. You don't have to be at the same level, but you have to be compatible.
Interesting.
See?
Yeah.
And she looks at this and she has a big epiphany about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I could keep going like and give you a half a dozen other scales.
Actually, I was going to ask you, what are some of the other common scales? Like, obviously, they're all common. You've mathematically mapped this out, but what are some of the other scales, just so people know?
Well, okay, let me tell you the names of the 35 scales. It only takes a minute, and then you know exactly what subject matter is covered in the book.
Awesome. You got 1 minute. Go. No.
Okay, I'm sorry. My computer just did something funny here.
Yeah, it's been that guy today.
Okay. So these are the individual scales, meaning they apply primarily to individuals rather than groups.
Okay.
The scale of basic purposes, the scale of personal influence, the scale of choice, the scale of permeation, the scale of thought, the scale of identity, the scale of evaluation, the scale of motivation, the scale of control, the scale of stopping, the scale of scholarship, the scale of literacy, the scale of human ability, the scale of memory, the scale of spiritual identity, the scale of mental deletion, the scale of aberration, the scale of physical fitness, the scale of justification, the scale of belief, the scale of equanimity, the scale of attack, the scale of conflict, and the scale of reaction. And these are the group scales. Wow. The scale of relationships, the scale of life spheres, the scale of government, the scale of civilization, the scale of survival, the scale of management, the scale of exchange, the scale of communication, the scale of allegiance, the scale of sexuality, and the scale of politics.
Wow.
Any one of these scales by itself could dramatically improve the life of the reader.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It depends on the person and the situation.
Wow. And it sounds like, because there's so many assessments out there now, but that's not what this is, because what I'm hearing you say is people will read it and connect with it directly, as opposed to, answering questions and having it go into a mathematical algorithm that tells them
That's right.
what they are, versus them
That's right.
actually reading and understanding what they are on a deeper level.
Yes, this is very user-friendly. I went out of my way to make it that way. I designed these skills to wrap around the reader. So it's like this. Let's say you go into a store and you want to buy a dress, right? So you go in there, they have 10,000 dresses, right? So how are you going to figure this out? Well, what fabric, what color, what size, for what occasion, and so forth. And you go through this process of winnowing, right? And you get it down to one, and you pay your $500 and leave with the dress. That is how this works, except there are only 7 choices in each scale. So you're only selecting from among 7 possibilities, which is not that many.
Yeah.
So, for example, if I stop some guy out on the street here and I say, "What's your wife's motivation toward you?" he will look at me like I'm from Mars. "How could I know that?" he'll say. "There are thousands of motivations." No, there are only 7, and the rest are subsets of these.
Wow.
So I show him the scale of motivation. He says, "Oh, yeah, I see it's 7. Well, I can see now. Her motivation is 1, whatever it is." See? He gets it. And this is really useful because this can help you to indemnify yourself against destructive people and inure yourself to constructive people. Mm-hmm. This happens to me all the time. I'll meet some guy and I'll spot him, because I know this material, at being at or near the bottom of one or more of these scales. I say, "Whoa, I'm not going to mess with this. Have a nice day. Thank you. Goodbye." Yeah. Wow. Or the opposite can happen, where I meet somebody and I say, "Wow, this is an upskilled person. She's at this level on this scale, this level on this scale. This is somebody I want to have around me," you see? Mm-hmm. And I have actually been doing this for years. Wow. Where it's very easy for me to select people, meet some person the first day and say, "This is someone I want in my life." And I bring that person in my life, whatever it is, professional, financial, emotional, familiar, whatever it is, and that person turns out to be a big asset to me. Yeah. Moreover, when the person is not high on a scale, I can spot it and I can tiptoe around it because I know what I'm dealing with. Wow. So this is very easy to use.
Yeah. So believe it or not, we're at time. So for everybody who's watching right now, and I do have a lot of coaches and business owners, how can they get your book, Septemics, Hierarchies of Human Phenomena, Analysis, Prediction, and Management of Human Affairs?
I invite your listeners to my website, which is septemics.com, SEPTEMICS, where you can see what many readers have said, what many journalists have written. You can see the reviews. You can read sections of the book itself. And there's a 15-minute pre-recorded introduction to Septemics, which you can listen to if you're a new person, where I explain the subject in 15 minutes.
Awesome.
And then it's available hardbound, softbound, ebook. It's very easy to find. Amazon, Barnes & Nobles. You can get it from the publisher, Author House. If you just put the word Septemics in the search engine, you'll get hundreds of responses, including everybody who's selling the book.
Yeah, awesome.
So it's easy to find.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jim, for the time that you spent with us today and for sharing all of this information. I mean, it really has a potential game changer for the industry that I'm in and so many others. Now, going forward, we have some really amazing guests lined up for season 3, which we are now officially in. So yay to season 3. Please check back with us for more fascinating conversations with guests such as veterans, authors, coaches, business owners, and some people who've really overcome some rather significant challenges to thrive in their purpose. You have so many viewing choices these days, so thank you very much for watching our show, and please tell a friend or colleague about us. You can catch all of seasons 1 and 2 on demand on rvntelevision.com as well as Roku. And as part of our season 3 change, all our episodes are now going straight to on demand. So you can find us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at rvntelevision.com and Roku. And also, please remember, whether you're looking to make changes in your life, no matter how big or small, please tune in again for more inspirational, educational, and really mind-blowing conversations with people like Jim, who realized their purpose in life and overcame whatever challenges or obstacles may have laid in their path to find that purpose and live it.